Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Cammy Goes Keto, where I'm here with Mike Collins, the sugar-free man who runs sugardetox.com and has done all sorts of wonderful work to help people get off of sugar, tens of thousands of people, and lots of success. So thank you, Mike, for being here with me today. I appreciate that. And helping me learn and helping me grow and helping me face things that are difficult. So before we were taping, we were discussing my frustrations this morning and how I'm just so frustrated about how I didn't sleep well last night, but how I'm on this Zepbound and I lowered my dose a little bit because the side effects were bad with the nausea and the upset stomach. And now I'm still eating sugary items and flour items. My son just left for after he was here for 6 days, and I kind of did a free for all and just ate whatever everybody else was eating, which was a lot of sugar and flour, and felt connected and felt like I belonged. But now I'm absolutely miserable and bigger. And so I'm dealing with that frustration. And Mike and I were talking a little bit about how I'm trying to find a sweet spot, so to speak, between managing my emotions and my feelings and everything that comes up there and managing the food together, having them kind of work together and doing both of them in a healthy way. So Mike is going to share a really great story about a sweet spot.
So the setup is that Cammy, and for you that have started or starting this series now, you're going to want to go back and listen to the beginning when we started, and we've gone through a lot together in an attempt to get Cammy, abstinent from sugar and flour. This really then was originally the goal, is the goal, right? Her honesty, her transparency, courage, genuine courage to on YouTube to talk about the other parts of her life, which is in our world, the work post abstinence, which is the learning a new way to emotionally handle things, right? And so, sort of a quick recap for folks that haven't been following the series is Cammy is a doctor, a retired surgeon and OBGYN, but she also is a recovering alcoholic and she lost two children in her career and got a divorce. And her mother, we had a series, a little bit, a couple episodes on her mother and the relationship she had which was, she was very difficult to please when she was young. So she's like everybody. She's got life experiences that ended up that she couldn't not be present in the operating room or whatever when she had her career, when she was raising her other kids. And so she was, she has onboarded, if you will. Originally, there was alcohol and that kind of thing. And then always early on was sugar and flour. And unconsciously, no fault of hers or just a societal understanding that these are acceptable things. What she would do is like she would use sugar and flour unconsciously, now just like many of you may be doing, to just assuage the worry and the fear and the pain of losing two children and getting a divorce and recovering from alcoholism. A lot of our clients are recovering alcoholics and drug addicts who substitute sugar almost immediately. And that works to keep soothing and not doing the work of bringing up those emotions or what have you. And so here we are, and she's on a little bit of a cocktail, and we've added a few over the years now. She's added a few things, SS, Cymbalta, and those kind of things, and GLP-1s for the weight loss part when they became popular, Zepbound, I believe. And so really, I tell this story, and we talked about it before we came on. We didn't want to not do it, and I could never do this without the courage that she is showing to just lay this crap on the table and just do it and explain what she's going through and how she's feeling as she goes through, as she just did about, we're months and months into this thing, and her son comes and she's doing the flour and the sugar again. So the story that I tell is a drug addict alcoholic person going to a concert. And so the drug addict alcoholic person is going with their buddies, no girlfriend, no mate, it's the guys or the girls, whatever, right? You're going to the concert and you got a little pot and you got a little beer and you got a little whiskey and you got a little acid and you got a little cocaine and you got a little bit of all the drugs that you like. Everybody's brought a little bit of something, something, right? To go and travel to this concert. This is your favorite band, right? And what is the goal? What is the goal of all of this cocktail of drugs, this cocktail of ways to change how you feel? That goal is to not be ready when the first band comes out, but to be perfect, like to have ingested just enough. You can't do too much of acid, you can't do too much cocaine, and you can't be too drunk, and you can't be too high, but you gotta be a little, and it's to put all these things together so that when that first band, that's really when the Rolling Stones comes out, you are freaking perfect. And I've done this 50 times in my life, okay, going to concerts back in the day, right? And with all of my buddies who are doing the same thing and accomplishing the same goals, trying to accomplish the same goal, that first hour of the best band is your state, how you feel is perfect, right? And I've akin this to the work that Cammy is doing in an attempt to be abstinent from substances and to get back to a homeostasis and a holistic view on life after 40 years plus 50 maybe of outsourcing her emotional life to these substances. And I don't know if this is true, I'm going to guess it might be true, that you could write your own prescriptions for stuff. You have a belief that you kind of know what you should be doing, kind of thing, but it's just been difficult to execute. And so I'm trying to get to this combination that you're currently on, which is the SSRIs and the the most fascinating thing I'm having with the GLP-1s is not that it freezes up your stomach and your emptying is slower and all the body stuff, and God forbid the muscle mass loss right along with the fat loss, is the reports that it's stopping the food noise, that it's changing people's drinking habits, gambling habits. They've quit drinking, they quit gambling. Yeah, they lost weight, but they also quelled other addictions because the food noise. So there's something going on in the mind of the brain with this drug. Then you add the Cymbalta, right? And almost every time you get to, I mean, this is just an observation, we get to a place where you're 30, 60 days with abstinence from the flour and the sugar, you're still onboarding those other two, and you're still you're searching for a self-medicated, designed by Cammy system to ease through the process of emotional change, growth, and work. And that's the big word, work, of coming back to changing 45, 50 years of processing these emotions with the help of sugar, flour, then alcohol, then other drugs, and now GLP-1s. And this is where we're sitting, okay? And I mentioned that when I was younger, I would go to these they called them black belt AA meetings, right? And they were these old dudes. They were like, sit down, shut up. You don't have the right to talk. And back then, I would go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and you were not well if you were doing Suboxone. Suboxone didn't even exist, but methadone or whatever. And so you had to go, and I was a completely abstinence-based person. We didn't do anything. And these guys would, you couldn't talk in an AA meeting. You could not talk about drugs. It was only about booze. And what I'm getting at here is there was a strictness to the abstinence, right? And it's like the same thing evolved out of OA, which Older Readers Anonymous, which you could name your own abstinence. People struggled for 20 years. But when the other places came online, they named an abstinence that you were not in recovery if you used flour or sugar. Food Addicts Anonymous in Recovery, they sound different, but they're not. Gray Sheeters and CA How, those people started to grow faster, and those meetings are now today growing faster than even the old flagship of OA. I'm telling you this whole history story, this anthropological story of myself and the movements that spawn food addiction recovery in general, which is a misnomer and will be renamed to ultra processed food use disorder, as a substance use disorder that you are recovering from, right? And we've got to get straight what is included, right? Now, I need a disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor. I can't tell people to get off of either GLP or on GLP-1s or SSRIs, okay? And I'm not here to do that for anyone that's listening. It's a disclaimer for Cammy and myself. But this is an option or a thought process of abstinence, and then abstinence and facing the emotional work or the emotional upset that will come if you were to go 100% abstinent. And we even talked about going to a treatment center so that you had a safe place to do that. So I don't know if that helped, hurt, or made people crazy or made you crazy, but that's kind of the feeling that I have right now as we speak with, what's going on with you, because what's happening, we opened this morning with you are frustrated with this process, with this progress, with this up and down, with trying to find that balance of all of these things to get you through to the other side. And my contention, back to my history of 100% abstinence. Now, I also want to say that I do believe in Suboxone and I do believe in harm reduction. Any amount of sugar reduction is good. But for someone like yourself who's really wanting to experience, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you want to experience freedom from all of those things and a completely holistic life. And I think you believe, and I'm pretty sure it will happen, is that if you do that, if you get there, the weight will just automatically drop off and you will fall to a body that whatever your frame it was supposed to be when you were 18 or 19 years old. So I don't know. Apologies for the rant, but I think it was something that it was building in me in a little bit, and you kind of kicked it off this morning. So
Yeah, no apologies, Mike. This is really a good summary of where I am and what's been going on with me for like years now. I mean, how long have we been together? It's been over a year, I'm sure.
yeah.
Um, so what One of the reasons why I'm frustrated is because I'm not abstinent yet, and it's been a year, and I've been working on this. And sometimes I just want to quit this channel. I just want to be like, okay, well, I'm not successful. I can't get this done. I'm going to quit this channel. And I can't, I don't want to do that because I know I'm not alone. This sugar and flour have been very, very difficult for me. It's been ingrained for 50 years. It's different than the alcohol. The alcohol was easy compared to the sugar and flour. I know I'm not alone when I say that. A lot of people transferred straight from the alcohol to the sugar like I did. And then, with the loss of my second son, that just kind of really sealed the deal for me to just drown myself in it and get so metabolically sick from it too. So a couple of things is that I'm coming off of the Cymbalta. I've been on it since 2005 when Brandon died, and I'm on 20 milligrams. I started at 60, and I'm going to pull off probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And so I'm almost like I guess the way that I'm thinking about it is kind of forcing myself to deal with my emotions, and because they're going to be there more, right? And but you have to be abstinent. You really have to be abstinent for these emotions and for these things to come up in ways that you can deal with them, do the work, manage through the process, and then get yourself on the other side. That's how but I can't get the abstinence down because the emotions are in the way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of feeling like frustrated and stuck. And, part of me is like, Cammy, you need to keep your mouth closed on those foods. Like, what's wrong with you? Okay. Part of me is like, what's wrong with you that you can't do this? You've done so many hard things in your life and been successful. And what's wrong with you that you can't get this done?
So you brought up something with the what's wrong with you. Okay. And this is a little bit of a complex. It's not that complex because I don't want to make anything complex. There's a lot of people that are way too smart to recover, but there's no one too dumb to recover. I like that phrase. What I was going to say is this: what's wrong with you? This is a construct that's not talked about much anymore. But the payoff of using is shame. Okay. If you want to pull this back to Melody Beattie, John Bradshaw kind of stuff, the the payoff is the devil you know versus the devil you don't. And I always hated when I first started studying this that addicts are shame-based people. I always hated that, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And I always tell people I need to be watched when things are going well. I need to have guidance. I need to have support. I need to have, and after you get like off the, you want to pull away from the people that we're supporting or the people that are continuing to have support you. And you have to find likely new friends because the people you used to hang with and the family you used to hang with are going to be similar at levels of, shame basedness, right? I always love the phrase when 2 people, addicts get together, they don't they don't have a relationship, they take hostages, you know? It's like they, they basically meet at the same level of trauma bonding or shame or whatever, whatever have. But what I'm getting at here is you have to think about the idea that these slips, quote unquote, these things are bringing you back to the devil, right? They're because you grew up that way. You've told the story super honestly, like you became a surgeon and an MD to tell your mother at least, but your parents and the world. I know I did, and my successes, is like to tell the world that I'm not, I am somebody kind of thing. I'm not shame based or whatever, it's like to feel better about yourself. But the goal didn't change the feeling, right? The goal never changes the feeling. Like it's not the thing, it's not the degree or the money or the girl or whatever. It's none of that, it's you, it's us, and that's the hard part to live through the healing of that, right? Without the substances. And the only thing you want the substances to do is to shut the damn negative voices up, to stop, ruminating on you are not do you. And I always hated this part too, but this idea that I am not enough. I'm not enough just the way I am. And that part is like, there's a great Saturday Night Live skit when this was more in the public discourse I like me and people like me and I don't know, I forget what he used to say, but it was hilarious. I'm a good person and people like me or something like that. I got to look that up. I think that'd be a good skit to put on social media. Anyway, you're just, in that place where you're crossing over the bridge of abstinence. And as the emotions rise, originally, I always tell the story like when I first got sober, I used to speak to myself in a way that would, if someone else spoke to me that way, I would beat the shit out of it. So 95% of my life was, you idiot. What do you do that for? You're no good at this. And it took 40 years to get it switched over to now it's only 10 or 15% of the day. And some days it's 5%, where I don't speak to myself that way anymore. Right. I don't hear my father's voice, the critical voice anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't not 90% of the day or 95% of the day.
Well, and when you do hear it, you don't listen to it because you don't believe it, like for so long, I believed those things. It was crazy.
Right.
And I still do, but this idea about shame really speaks to me. And it's almost like there's this big mountain, this big, huge mountain of shame. And then, you have this little pick and you have to go and like pick at it, and pick at it and get it down. And I wanted to just mention the word kind because I just had a birthday and just celebrated 4 years with no alcohol and no pot. I mean, that was a big part that got me in trouble was the California sober where
Wow. Right.
they smoke
Yeah.
marijuana or eat the gummies or whatever. And I got enrolled in that. So 4 years ago, but I'm off that roll. Thank God. In my birthday celebration, people were kind to me. Nikki said some really kind things on the school posts.
Yeah.
And my girlfriend Yitka, who I've known since pre-med at UCSD, she talked for 10 minutes about my 5 character traits that are the most wonderful traits. And she went on and on like a speech. Interesting to have those feelings around people being really kind to me because
Yes.
people were not kind to me growing up. Although I have to let you know that my dad was very kind to me. We did not have a close relationship. He was always busy working and there were 7 kids but the relationship that we did have when he
Mhm.
did interact with me, it was always very kind. This interaction with these other people today, and we were going through my sister's things at her house, and there was this 8x10 picture of my dad with this big smile on his face, and I took it and I framed it, and I have it on my counter now, on my dresser. And I'm just going to remember about being kind because it felt very foreign. It felt very uncomfortable to have these people be kind to me. And the other day, I cut my finger really bad in the kitchen with this knife that got caught in the disposal and was whipping around and cut my finger really bad. My son was here, and my son was very kind to me and took very good care of me. And then the first thing he asked me was, "Do I have a first aid kit?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Mom, the doctor doesn't have a first aid kit." So after he got me all fixed up we had some good dressings. I was really lucky. He went and bought me a first aid kit and insisted on going to the store at 9:30 at night to buy me a first aid kit and was just very kind to me. And so I think it was like God pointing out to me that, you know what, Cammy, you need to learn how to be really kind to yourself and have that be okay and have that feel good and have that feel right and have that feel nourishing and have that feel in a way, more of what's normal for you, right? Like you were talking about those voices and how they shift.
I say it's amazing. It's like some kind of weird synergism happened and I couldn't interrupt you because you were telling yourself or telling me what I was thinking, which is when these people are nice to you, is it hard for you? Is it difficult for you to let it in, to accept it? You know what I mean? And I think I've done it over the years. I don't think I'm that good at it because I never grew up with it. I think I struggle with it with my team that's, help running the back end of our business, the internet guys and all that kind of stuff, because I just never grew up with it. And I feel like, because even today, when someone's like that, I deflect. I deflect it. Oh yeah, 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 no big deal. And it's hard. It's weird that it should be hard, that you should be able to accept those compliments and accept that goodness and that kindness from people, right? It's work. It's weird. Why would this be work, right? Why would it be work to graciously accept this new group of people, that I was going to say, like, addicts have to leave their crew, because drug and drinkers, they have to leave their crew because they can't hang out with drinkers and drug addicts anymore. They got to hang out with the newly sober people, right? And then they've got to accept their goodness, their grace, right? And so this is like an important part of the work. And I still wish that Byron Katie had not trademarked that name, because that's what it is. The work is biochemical repair first, which is the abstinence of drugs and alcohol and sugar and flour. And then whenever and as these emotions present the way that they would if there's a backlog or just everyday stresses and strains, you learn other ways to work through them. And you get support from your support group who have all done the same thing we're talking about, the same process, right? And so I'm just, I have to do this because I think it's super important for me as a growth thing, because I'm not, like I said, as good at it. Is Cammy, you are the kindest, most courageous of the clients that I work. I have clients, people would know their name if I told it to them, you know what I mean? Famous, rich people. And I have from that all the way to everyone, the average person. And you are the hardest worker, the kindest, the most intellectually gifted person. You are an athlete as a young person. You have so much going for you. You've done so much and you've helped so many people. And now you're needing to get their help, like other people, not necessarily the people that you helped, but the people who have passed through where you're headed, and to accept that. Is that hard? It's almost like your face is crinkling on me. Is it hard for you to hear me say things like that?
Yes, yes. It's hard. And I noticed that I stopped breathing. I hold my breath.
Okay, there's a
Um,
good catch.
yeah. And when my girlfriend Yitka was doing the same thing, she was going on and on. So I had time. I had time listening to her um, to process what I was feeling and what I was doing. And it was very, very interesting because I was telling myself, I was like, Cammy, just soak this up.
Yeah,
Just let her do this.
that concept has to happen. That's a good one. that consciousness of saying that to yourself has to happen.
Yeah, yeah, and then the other part of me was, like, listening to every word she was saying and trying to do, like, a little check mark. Like, is it possible that that's really true? Like, what have I done opposite of that to defame what she's saying? You know? And I'm listening to it and I'm like, "Well, I guess she could actually kinda see it that way. Yeah, well, I do that things to people. I help them when they need help." Well, yeah, and so, like, there's part of me, like, doing the tally on this side, and the other part of me just trying to really soak it up and appreciate that
Right.
she's doing that, and she was so eloquent and the way she expressed it, and it went on, and it was really beautiful, and then it's so, like, I had, like, these 3 things happen in a short period of time, and that's when I think that the universe is like, "Cammie, you need to learn a lesson about kindness and about how
Self-kindness.
self-kindness, how you're very kind to people, but you beat yourself up." And, I wanted to go back and just briefly say, like, when I said, "What's wrong with you?" Like, when I tell myself, "What's wrong with you?" I always try to switch that up and say, "What happened to you?" From Oprah Winfrey's book that she co-wrote with that
Yes.
doctor. I can't remember his
Yeah.
name, Perry or something maybe. But what happened to you? And then that makes much more sense, right? When you're talking about what happened to you as opposed to what's wrong with you. So I
Yes.
think that that's really important for people to remember. When you start talking bad about what's wrong with you need to think about what happened to you.
Yes. So I was just looking up something while you were saying this stuff. Is there's a comedian out there. His name is Mark Lundholm and Lundrum, and he's got a skit that says "First thought wrong."
Mm.
It's really, really funny, and it's really so spot on to this conversation. Is that he's a recovery comedian? Okay, he's sober and he talks about, and he's like Rodney Dangerfield brings back the he'll talk about this and he'll say, I get no respect. And he doesn't even have to say anything. He's anchored the audience to I get no respect, right? And they break out laughing. Well, Mark's during his skit, he's like talking about his recovery, his drinking days versus his not, sober days. And he talks about like, then he goes, first thought wrong or something. And then tells you what he did, right? Well, it's the same thing here. It's like, I'm going to put it in the chat. I got it. I don't know what public chat means, but like, I'm going to put it there. And if it goes up on the video, that'd be great. But you can click on that one and check out Mark. But, the thing is like, the first thought when you hear a kindness from another person is to deflect it to like, no big deal, no big deal. And not to just say, well, thank you. That's a kind thing to say or whatever, something. And then literally, really emotionally feel it enter you like that it's a truism, that it's correct, that it's you, that's like, I tell this story sometimes. So my father never, I don't think in his life said like a good thing, good job, whatever. Right? So I'm like 20 something years old. I might have been almost 30 and he's helping me move. And it's just him and I. We're literally at the end of the truck and there's one thing that needed to get pushed in. He something wrong with his shoulder or something, but I just give it a couple of whacks, shoulder and the door would close. Right. And he goes, good job. And I'm like, this entire like endorphin, something flooded through my body because first time in almost 30 years, the man said, good job about anything, which kind of reminds me of your mother. So, you got to kind of piece together the backstory of how you develop this shame-based feelings, this beat up yourself feeling. So yeah, I mean, it's the work, it's the recognition that you're not going to numb it out because it feels bad. Sugar will shut it up for a minute or two when you're a kid. And then when you're an adult, alcohol will definitely shut it up. You know what I mean? Whatever, whatever. That's the only goal is to shut it up for a minute. Just shut it up for a minute. And so that you don't have that, "Oh, I did that wrong again, whatever it is."
Yeah. Yeah, it was very foreign and very uncomfortable and very different and very new, to soak up all those feelings. And I think that's what, because I was in the moment and I'm like, why, what does this feel like to me? which is another really good thing for me to be doing, is to understand and define and categorize my emotions and feelings about things instead of just boxing them up to drink them away or to eat them away or whatever. And
Yeah.
so the uncomfortableness of it is what I didn't like. And I want it to be really comfortable. I want it to be able to be like, yeah, yeah, she's right. Well, thank you so much. That's so wonderful for you to acknowledge that about me. Because the world sees me a certain way and I do not see myself that way. And
Mm,
I really want more of seeing myself the way the world sees
world
me.
sees you, correct.
And when I have like a birthday and I have these and people acknowledge the way that they see me in like a group in massive doses so that I really hear it. It pleases me. You know, I want it to please me and be fun and happy.
Yeah. And you deserve it. I mean, I think that's a big phrase or a big word in this work. You deserve it just by taking air on this planet. You deserve that. You deserve to have that mental peace, right? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to become a surgeon. You deserve it anyway. You know, you deserve it. You didn't have to do that when you were younger. Well, like I said, with the smart people and, a lot of people are too smart to get sober in recovery. They're gonna think their way out of this. They're gonna think their way into backwards. So you have to kind of just let it light on you. Just let it come to you. Let it be you. It's okay. You deserve it and you're worthy of. That's what he used to say. I like myself. I am worthy or something. I'll look that skit up and send it to you. It's a Saturday Night Live skit. Stuart something or other. And he's looking in the mirror. It's hilarious. And it's very relevant to what we're speaking on today. Actually, this information, this type of looking at addiction recovery was more prevalent when John Bradshaw was alive and Melly Beatty was alive in their work, right? It was it was a it was a next level of what do you call it? First principles understanding of addiction recovery. Okay. First principles. Yes, you got to get off the stuff. You got to detox. You got to do all that physical stuff. But the emotional work of why you became an addict and how you really get feeling good and healthy and stay off of the substances is, I believe, truly still based in that work that they had done as the pioneers in this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. That Healing the Shame That Binds You by
Yeah,
John Bradshaw. I remember reading that book and I remember he talked about shame as an identity.
yeah,
And when it's so ingrained in you, it's like part of your identity. And I remember reading that paragraph and I was like, oh my gosh, that's me. That's me. Like my identity is like shame.
I felt the same way. I really did. And, it registers it. Here's the problem with us guys. I'm sure you've been called a brainiac. In school, they called me. After I started drinking, they never called me that anymore because I didn't go to school. But what I'm saying is like, we registered this intellectually and they're like, that's okay. That's good. That's correct. But we never get it viscerally. We never get the the real solution that he's describing, or we never do the work to get to the real solution that he's describing. Right. So yeah, it's tough.
Which interestingly, he does talk in his book about the 12 steps being the work.
Well, interestingly enough, about the 12 steps will, if you're willing and you have the right group, take you loosely through this process that we're working on today, right? But it does have a spiritual component that is either, depending on your point of view, required or not required. You know what I mean? And so a lot of it is given over to the spiritual, whatever your construct of God or spirituality is. And there are a lot of agnostic AA groups and other types of group, Life Ring and some others, I forget their names, that don't include the spiritual part. But the work is the same, right? The work is the same. Again, the way the 12 steps are structured and how you go through them one at a time will loosely make you grow through this work, right? But I think there are nuances and parts of it that it can't address with the spirituality stuff. I think there's true psychological principles involved. and like a lot of what we're talking about today here.
Well, thank you so much for a great discussion, Mike. And for me, just soaking in that I'm doing the work and that I will continue to come and show up. My son's gone and I'm on 90 days of abstinence and working on making it a lifestyle, not just my 90 days. And then when I get to 92, I can go off, but working on doing the emotional work as well as being abstinent.
I love it. And you are doing an amazing job, and you are doing an amazing public service doing it in public. I think I've told you about the guys in Washington, D.C., the Faces and Voice in Recovery, and there's a couple others where this idea of recovering out loud in public is a public service because, anonymity, in my humble opinion, is no longer needed. This is a healthcare issue. This is a healthcare issue, and a lot of people need the information who are not getting it because they don't have $30,000 or $50,000 to sign into a treatment center.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for acknowledging me for that, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. You keep up the great work.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Take care.
Bye.